I've looked at the Platinum version. Today, I'm taking a look at the DC Multiverse Standard Edition Batman Noel, specifically a showcase of head swaps. Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation. Since I've already looked at the Platinum Edition, I'm not going to be doing a full review here. If you want a more thorough breakdown of this figure, like its articulation, accessories, or who it scales with, I'd invite you to look at that one. Really, this is all about the head swaps. Just to give it a quick once-over though, the box is the same, featuring that beautiful Libramijo Batman Noel artwork. For those searching in-store, here's the UPC. The fact that the box specifies this is Batman from Batman Noel gives me hope we might see some other characters. Otherwise, it's the same as the blue and gray version we've already looked at, except of course for the colors, and is mostly the same as Page Punchers. The differences being the emblem, the neck piece, a wired soft goods cape, and a slightly modified head featuring a more static expression compared to the more tooth-gritting original version. Batman Noel has a new left hand holding his binoculars, though for the purpose of this video I'm going to swap that out with the fist. Otherwise, the only difference from the Platinum Edition is that this one has a batarang instead of a Christmas present. Before getting to the swaps, just a quick reminder that figures built off the three Jokers' body are incompatible. Their articulation is at the base of the neck, instead of most other figures which are at the base of the skull. With that out of the way, let's start things off with Detective Comics 1000. The pegs aren't an exact match, so you will need to figure that out. Either way, it scales pretty well, and as usual is a vast improvement over the head that came with this body. As you can see, it's way too cartoonish and stylized, completely clashing with this costume's aesthetic. Next up, and here we have the Grim Knight. Straight on, this combination looks fine. It's really only when you look at him sideways that you realize part of his head's missing. Still, I think it works. Swapping him out though, and this is totally an improvement. McFarlane's come a long way in the Batman head department since 2020, so if you're looking for a worthy upgrade, keep this one in your sights. For a video game version, and here's Arkham Knight, in general this head's a little small for this body, though in fairness the original head is a bit small too. The whited out eyes, however, do give it a more comic book feel. That's one thing the Arkham Knight head really has going for it. Strictly speaking, a Libramijo Batman should have the pupils visible, but for some reason McFarlane continues to not do that. Next up is the similarly sized Rebirth. Despite scaling well though, this head is still a bit small for this body. In general, I do like the design of this head, and I suppose you could say it makes the body look bigger and bulkier. That being the case, this is definitely an improvement, and clearly McFarlane thought so too. Flipping him sideways, you can see how they took the Page Puncher's head but just softened the details. It's not an exact match, but as we'll see later, it's definitely a retooled version of Page Puncher's. If I can track down an extra Noel, I might just be tempted to make this permanent. For the Batman head swap MVP, and here we have Future's End. As always, this looks great. Mysterious, dark, and edgy, or good for something like a motorcycle helmet. Other way around, and I know it's not supposed to be Bruce under the cowl, but I do like this costume. I especially admire how they're able to evoke the trunks without actually giving him trunks. That would be a great direction for a live-action costume to go. Back to video games, and here's a Sinestro Corps skin from Arkham Knight. As usual, showing you this configuration is more of a formality, mainly because I'm not really sure who out there is looking to do this. It's really all about seeing the Sinestro head on this body. One thing about this head I go back and forth on is how little of the jaw you can actually see. Still, it cuts a pretty mean silhouette. And then for one more video game, here's one of your favorites, Arkham City. Of the long-eared heads we've looked at so far, I think I like this combo best. The jaw is similar enough that I feel like this looks like a variation of the same suit. On the flip side, for those who prefer a short-eared Batman and this body as your basic, it's a really good combo. It has very strong black and gray Hush vibes, and again, the jaw is similar enough where it just feels like a different version of the same head. For one I've never reviewed, but whose head I like for swapping, and here's Dark Knights of Steel. The skin tones here are a perfect match, so if you want to give this Batman a more traditional cowl, you definitely could. Alternately, this is a lot of fun. It might be a bit too busy, but I do like the dings and scratches and pupils, and all things being equal, it still comes together pretty well. Next up is Commissioner Gordon as Batman. Generally speaking, I feel like most heads are too big for this body, though the facial structure is pretty similar to Jim Gordon Batman. Also, as a general rule, I tend to like this head on just about everybody. It might not be Bruce, Bruce, but it's a good all-around Batman head, and the ears are long without being too long. Back to Bruce though, and here's the black and gray version of Nightfall. As someone who's happy with the Nightfall head, this looks pretty good to me. At the very least, it scales well. Other way around, this head might be a bit too detailed for this body, but again, it is such a good short-eared Batman option. And hold on to that thought, because I'm going to expand on it with Dick Grayson from Batman Reborn. I doubt most of you are going to do anything with this combo, but for those who are interested, here you go. For me, it's really all about this. A lot of customizers are using this body as a Nightfall scale Hush, and I think this is a great head for it. And hey, if you wanted a blue and gray Hush, you could just swap the head and cape from this guy, and then paint the rest to match. It's also a great way of finally giving Hush Batman his treads. Not only that, but with a little extra work, you can make it so that all of your Batmen have the same basic face, so they look like different versions of the same guy. Since the heads are so similar, I'm not going to bother to swap these. Mainly, I just wanted to take a look at the unmasked Bruce Wayne head, which ironically doesn't look a whole lot like the masked head that came with it, but it's the best comic-style Bruce Wayne option we have, so there you go. Moving into movies, and here's the gold label Michael Keaton from Batman '89. It doesn't evoke any particular look, but it's still cool. What's nice about this head is it's realistic without looking like a specific actor, so if you wanted to let your imagination run wild, you absolutely could. This, on the other hand, is an interesting scenario. It's a fascinating window into what a realistic, non-rubber suit version of Keaton could have been. In a slightly different world, this could have been the standard for live-action superhero costumes. Next up, and here we have George Clooney from Batman and Robin. Overall, this is pretty cool. Well, except for the nipples. But that all-black costume is very striking. Other way around, and I always enjoy a Clooney combo. With the best Batman jaw, he just looks like the character come to life. So to my eye, at least, I'm very happy. I know I seldom bring him out, but based on your request, here's Christian Bale from The Dark Knight. As somebody who unrepentantly hates the Dark Knight costume, this is right up my crime alley. The more angular mask is a great match for this style, and I really wish Bale could have had a suit more similar to this. For me, the Dark Knight suit was just too busy. Just too many straps and panels and textures, and the bat symbol is so downplayed he might as well not have it at all. And then going in the order of film release instead of figure, here's Dawn of Justice Batfleck. I think most of us would agree that the strength of the Affleck costume is that it just feels like the comic book come to life. But for those who would like a fabric costume that feels less comic booky, this is a pretty good compromise. And I do feel that the likeness isn't so strong that you couldn't just use it as a generic, realistic Batman. That being the case, if you wanted a realistic comic book style Batman, this is great. It really does just look like Hush with more texture and detail. Compare that to all the extra detail on, say, McFarlane's Green Lantern body, and this is a really solid option. Next up is Batfleck's tactical armor from Justice League. Given just how perfect the Dawn of Justice costume is, I don't know how I feel about this, though I do still feel like this is the better Batfleck head sculpt. Overall, though, this is less comic booky and a bit more practical. As usual, I really like this combination. It just makes for a good basic armored Batman. If you wanted to do it though, you'd probably need to paint the neck piece. Another one that I rarely bring out but have gotten requests for is Robert Pattinson from The Batman. In its defense, I do like this batsuit. Having gotten to see it in person, I especially appreciate it, but if you're gonna do this combo, you really need to find a shorter peg. Other way around, and you actually need a longer peg. Thanks to all the seams and stitches, this combination works surprisingly well. Stepping back, I mean, you'd think it was made for it. Back to Batfleck, or at least a stunt double, and here we have the Flash. Generally speaking, most heads are too small for this body. Still, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't at least show you. This is the configuration I was more interested in. Because it doesn't resemble any specific well-known actor, it's just a good all-around Batman head, and if you wanted to paint it up, I think it would be pretty cool. This brings us full circle back to Michael Keaton from The Flash. I've made no bones about the fact that I'm not particularly crazy about this head, though I do see the resemblance. Even so, I think if you want Keaton in this costume, the other head is your best bet. I do like this though. Because this version of the costume isn't quite as iconic to me, it does feel like a more general Batman design. The only issue is that very thick neck. Which combination was your favorite? Sound off in the comments below, and also let me know if there were any I missed so I can try to circle back around to them next time. For the Platinum Edition Noel Batman or the original Page Punchers, check out one of these, and until next time, play nice and have fun.